Collaboration. Today, we will be discussing collaboration. We have discussed critical thinking and creativity. If you have taken 640, you've touched upon cultural competence, but that can be a course in and of itself. Now, here in this presentation, our focus is collaboration. In our discussions, it is the third C. In the broader spectrum, it is the fourth C. So, collaboration. Preparing our students for global collaboration. According to the Partnership for 21st Century Skills, global awareness refers to the ability of students to 1. Use the 5 C's: critical thinking, creativity, cultural competence, collaboration, and communication to understand and address global issues, learn from and work collaboratively with individuals representing diverse cultures, religions, and lifestyles in a spirit of mutual respect and open dialogue. The issue of working with others from various religions is quite challenging, uh, depending on individuals, and so we need to move beyond that. And how can we do that? Using the tenets of critical thinking. We've discussed those tenets, and we will continue to, because working in a spirit of collaboration requires us to do so. And then, in preparing our students for global collaboration means that we understand other nations and cultures. So what are we doing in our schools to embrace various cultures, to embrace the curiosity around other cultures? And then how are we working with our schools and our districts to ensure that all students become multilingual? So, preparing our students for global collaboration, according to one CEO, the skillfulness of individuals working with networks of people across boundaries and from different cultures is an essential prerequisite for multinational corporations. One of the things that adults now who work with various cultures in multinational corporations and even in corporations uh, that are part of a single nation, we have to grapple with the following questions. How do you solve a problem when the people who own what you need are outside of your organization or don't report to you, or the total solution requires a consortium of different people? How do you influence things that are out of your direct control? For our students moving forward, these are the questions that they will have to grapple with. How are we preparing them to work with and to be able to solve these problems, not just today, but when they enter the workforce? So, changes in collaboration. Now we have to have the ability to work fluidly around the world. That means that if you have a job, you need to be able to do that job not just here in the United States, but perhaps South Africa, perhaps China, perhaps somewhere in the Southeast Asia or India. And then, if you are here, you have to understand how to leverage the globe, time zones. Let's say it's 12 o'clock midnight here in the United States. That means it's 3 p.m. the following day, or the same day if I start at 12 p.m. In China. So I need to know that. And as I schedule meetings on WeChat or Skype or video conferencing, these are the things that we need to know. So we say, oh, okay, let's meet at 3 o'clock. What does that actually mean to meet at 3 o'clock? Is that 3 o'clock Chinese time or 3 o'clock LA time, Pacific Standard Daylight Savings Time, or Pacific Standard Time? So all these things come into consideration as we consider collaboration and collaborating with team members across the globe. So let's look at a couple of quick definitions of collaboration. The ability to synergize by building on your own strengths and each member of the team's strengths for the best possible outcomes. So now we are understanding not only our strengths, but understanding the strengths of our team members and really working from those strengths for the best possible outcomes. Not just the best possible outcomes for us individually, but for the entire team. So let's take a look at what that looks like for kids today, right now, in their space.
Thanks for the explosion, someone. That was me. Oh, thanks. Dude, I'm lagging so badly. Dude, I'm lagging up.
So here we see the kids communicate using computers, iPads, phones. With their iPads and their phones, they can use WeChat, Skype. They have an iPhone, FaceTime. On their computers, on their tablets, they can use Google Hangout. So there are a multitude of ways in which they can communicate and collaborate. Beyond that, when we have multiplayer games, students are working together, kids are working together from various locations virtually on solving a problem, working against a common enemy in a video game, or building things together via a video game. And so kids naturally collaborate. So how do we capitalize on a skill set that they are already engaged in? Again, a definition is exchanging ideas and working together for the purpose of creating, improving, developing, learning, and growing. So we, for a number of years here in the United States, have been engaged in professional learning communities. And those learning communities really should be about collaborating, which again is exchanging ideas and working together for the purpose of creating, in this case, creating lesson plans, new ways of teaching, improving our practice, developing again new practices, learning from each other, and growing as individuals and growing as an organization. So collaboration is not just something that we need to engage our students in, but we need to engage in ourselves as well. We are using the design thinking process as a way to engage and to collaborate. The entire process requires collaboration throughout. So we talked about critical thinking briefly in this presentation. For ourselves and for our students to be true collaborators, we have to engage the tenets of critical thinking. And the three that are really needed for collaboration are open-mindedness. So as we are collaborating, we have to have the discipline of mind to be open-minded. That is, to really open ourselves to hear what our colleagues have to say, to reserve judgment on what they're saying until we have taken in all the information, and then asking lots of clarifying questions. We're going to come back to this again in this presentation. So, preparing to collaborate means establishing discussion norms. If we're collaborating in PLCs, if we're collaborating with design thinking, if we're engaging our students in collaboration, then we need to establish norms. Part of those norms should be that we assume all comments are meant for good. We include norms for hard conversations, and these might not be our general norms. If there are issues that pop up during the collaboration time, we take those up privately, but we are sure to take them up so that we can address any misunderstandings and continue as a strong team. There are also protocols for productive discussion. Some of those protocols include, and the primary one, is listening to each other. Acknowledging what's been said by paraphrasing what you've heard before adding to the discussion. Synthesizing conversation points before adding to the discussion. And then, of course, our facial signals. If we are video conferencing, if we are using one of the other social media networking tools such as WeChat, again, we need to be clear of our facial signals, and we use them to signal when we understand, when we don't understand. And we have to be aware in general that our face signifies something to our individuals in our team who may not be or might be face to face. And then we have to remember to park ideas that might be useful but not useful at that time. So parking ideas useful for a later time, and then remembering to come back to those. We need a special place for those ideas that we park. When we begin the collaboration process with our students, we may want to, and I would suggest strongly, that you set up roles for your individuals. And these roles are short term and they are fluid, meaning that students should have the opportunity to engage in every single role. Just like we see with Little League. When students start out in Little League, they play every position. They play every position to determine really where their strengths are. For most of them, they don't know where their strengths are. And to build on those areas that might not be strong. So we also want to ensure participation of every member of the group. And so we give them roles such as facilitator. A facilitator keeps the discussion going, asking questions, bringing in different members of the team. So the facilitator really needs to be ready before the collaboration time begins, understanding what the agenda is for that collaboration time, understanding who's coming to collaboration, and then preparing a list of questions to move the collaborative discussion along, and also identifying questions as the discussion is in process. And then a monitor is there to ensure that all individuals engage in the collaborative process. And if it seems that one person is dominating the conversation, the monitor essentially shuts the gate on one and opens it on another. And there are tools that you can use with your students as they monitor. Some of these are quite simple, and that's a quick thank you, we haven't heard from, or we need to hear more from. Elaborator elaborates on what's been said, and some students are excellent at synthesizing and elaborating. This is a skill that we want to build with all of our students. And then the cheerleader cheers on individuals. And so sometimes we have ourselves or other, if we're working with kids in the group who may be a little shy, may be hesitant about speaking. And so the cheerleader encourages everyone and thanks them for their contribution to the discussion. And again, these are short-term roles and they should be fluid, meaning that individuals, our students, have opportunities to move in and out of these roles. And this is something that you can continue for 6 months, 7 months, or weeks, depending on how much your students have been engaged in collaborative processes before. Once kids have an opportunity to move through all of these roles a number of times, then you can allow them and encourage them to identify their own roles. And again, we will be monitoring to ensure that they have opportunities to switch roles throughout. As adults, we should also have roles such as these when we engage in collaborative processes. So, what do we need for collaborating? We need to prepare for our conversations. We can use graphic organizers to help individuals locally and abroad visualize what it is we're saying. One of the things that we have to be clear about in collaboration is that all folks are visualizing what we're talking about the same way. If not, we have a great many misunderstandings. So that's why graphic organizers are also important, and we have to continuously ask for feedback, ask folks to share what we think we're talking about until we all come to the same type of visual on what we're discussing. Analogies and metaphors are another good way to clarify what we're sharing, our thoughts, our ideas. Use of examples, again, another good way to share our ideas. And then evaluating examples is something that we need to do ourselves and get our kids in the habit of doing. Does this example make sense to me? Why does it make sense to me? Why would I use this example to share with someone else? We also want to challenge ideas. We want to push each other in the collaborative process, and uh, it's not about the idea might not be a good one, but how do we push each other to really grow our ideas? And so that comes through lots of questioning and then supporting ideas again with questioning. All right, so the next part is productive collaboration, and that means that the student learning increases when students are engaged in productive tasks that require collaboration. We know when we are engaged in critical thinking, in the tenets of critical thinking, um, we are improving our own thinking, and also if we can use meaningful content, then learning about the content area as well. So, student learning increases when students are engaged in productive tasks that require collaboration, opportunities to talk about what they are learning. Productive collaboration calls for students to use the language and the thinking of the discipline with their peers. Again, we move back to the tenets of critical thinking, open mindedness, deferring judgment, asking lots of questions. And then there are a plethora of skill sets that students can use when engaged in collaborative conversations. More skill sets rather, and a book that we can read ourselves with our peers to increase our own collaborative conversations, and then to use to improve student collaboration is a book called Academic Conversations by Jeff Swires and Maria Crawford. So I encourage you to pick up a copy of that. Share that book with your colleagues if you're looking for a book for book talk or book club. Professional development, academic conversations is a great one. It goes well with the 5 C's. It goes well with design thinking and certainly building collaborative skills with your students. Okay, so how can we continue to increase these skills in a very natural setting? Design thinking. We're engaged in design thinking, and in my opinion, that is the best way to engage students in collaborative conversations when we think broadly about projects and things that students might do. And so some other ones are problem-based and project-based learning. Again, design thinking is my preferred because it engages students very specifically in a process where they take ownership. They are asked to identify problems that are important to them and then to research why those problems are important, to really understand the end user. And these are the steps that may not be highlighted in problem-based or project-based learning. We actually come in with phase 2 with most of these other types of student engagement. Cooperative learning, that's an oldie, but still a good one when it comes to collaboration and developing collaboration skills. We can draw back on the ideas of collaborative learning. Constructive controversy, we know that students will not always agree, and so this is one way to deal with that. Engaging our students in debates and the tenets of debating, that's another good way to build collaboration. And then integrative negotiations. Here we really want a win-win situation. And in collaborating in general, when we collaborate as a team, we want a win-win. We want to pull from the strengths of all the team members. And so we want to pull from those strengths. We want to pull from the best ideas to improve our end product. Just with design thinking, when you're in that phase 4 of experimentation and you have different ideas and you bring those ideas together to make a new and improved product. That's the same that we do with integrative negotiations. Okay, I think we've covered most of, and let me not say most, but we've covered collaboration here. There are many other components that can be included. Again, I refer back to the book Academic Conversations. And then I want to end with in a global world, a flat one in which everyone in the world can interview for jobs anywhere in the world and will have to work with individuals from anywhere in the world. Collaborative skills, collaboration skills, and critical thinking are extremely important. And we have to continue to think about what does this mean for our kids to collaborate and to cultivate those collaborative skills in a global world.